Um, in America, there's been this dangerous rise of anti-intellectualism. But more importantly, it hasn't even really been a rise. It's always been a thing, but it's just creeping to the surface now. And a lot of people are starting to realize, well, the villain isn't this man on in some elite base controlling all of humanity with his puppeteer strings as he destroys us all. No, the enemy is actually us. So today I was figuring out to react to one of these anti-intellectualism videos. I've already seen the one with Professor Dave Explains. There was no need to watch that. I really wanted to watch. By the way, I do have a YouTube um extension to where like thumbnails are blocked. American anti-intellectualism. I wanted to react to this, but I really said, you know what? Let me take my time and let me watch a different video from somebody else. I've never seen this video. We're just gonna click on it. Oh, let's skip these ads. Y'all already know. We're just gonna skip these ads, and it's gonna be by
Hi there, it's yours.
stop celebrating stupidity. The rise of anti-intellectualism. Okay, like again, let me hide the comments because I don't want to be spoiled. But I really just don't understand what is going on with most of the average people. Like they are just so weird. A celebration of ignorance and stupidity, a concept for science and higher education. We are seeing the rise of anti-intellectualism. It's just everywhere now. And people just disagree with each other for no reason when there are clear evidence to prove it wrong. It's a very weird thing. So let's just get into this video.
Favorite heavy woodsman today, and
I'm gonna turn this all the way up, all the way up.
I have a new video here. Thank you for clicking on my thumbnail. I'm going to talk about something that's been on my mind for quite some time. I have to, while I talk, tend to the fire as well. I'm out here in this beautiful nature reserve. I come here now and then, and did you hear that? That was the ice. You know, one of the best things about being out in nature,
I'm
being
gonna
out
speed this up a little
hiking,
bit.
is that I'm usually all alone, which means that there are no idiots here. The creative trolls will now write in the comments. Well, I can see one at least, but apart from that, I'm all alone and out there usually, and it's beautiful, it's wonderful. But if you go to a city, there are idiots everywhere. Everywhere I look, there are stupid people. Yeah, I know that you know the feeling. You know?
No, we definitely know the feeling. So, man, pretty much like this is how I've been feeling about life. Like you would you just kind of want to be alone because it's just like holy shit, like what? It's one of those things like you can't even like really insult them. It's like wow, these guys are like man, they're you could actually compare them to disabled people. So it's like what the heck? Like it just makes you want to step back. Like, brother, I don't identify with your nonsense. And to like truly tie in with what he's saying, it just it's like that with everyone. And you take your chances with this guy and this guy and this girl and this girl and whoever it is, and it all results end in the same way.
Let me talk a little bit about this celebration of stupidity. We see it in popular culture. We see it in society in general. Um, Stupidity and a shallowness is being celebrated, and that's not a good thing. Let me
Mm.
just start off by reading a quote from the Daily Wire, a massive echo chamber, the way I see it. And this was Ben Shapiro, one of the talking heads there, who said this.
Hey.
He said the following: "You can spend years researching these topics. You can read all of the books, or you could just come and hang out with me here every week and know more on all of these topics than all your leftist friends." That's what Ben Shapiro said. Now, I'm not a leftist, but I must say that this is one of the Most moronic, idiotic things I've heard in a very long time, actually.
Very idiotic. This guy is literally saying, and that's what most. I think that was meant. Was that meant to be a joke? Right? I think that was meant to be a joke. What he said, Ben Shapiro. That was for sure. That was probably meant to be a joke. Who is Ben Shapiro again? I will quickly search this up because that is really meant to be a joke. He's a American lawyer. I guess that was meant to be a joke. You could either, yes, you could either what, bro? I gotta fix that with my browser. I've got to, bro. Like truly. But as he was saying, like Ben Shapiro, that's what most people do. You could either research, learn about everything that you need to learn about, or you can literally just get on the mic, not know a thing or two of what you're talking about, and say it to other people who don't know a thing or two of what they're talking about. And there, you've taken your dub. Isn't that crazy? Well, it's been happening. That's the truth. It's just that nowadays it's happening a lot more because we have a lot more ways to be stupider. Like this camera right now, I could get on here and yap about absolute nonsense. And I'm safe. And they make technology easy and safe for us Americans. I mean, I'm living a very good life. Like, man, my life is better than like what, like 80 to 90% of this earth. Like we're talking about on a global scale, my life is better than 90% of most humans. So I'm living a good life. And that's to say that my life is much more easier and other people's lives are much more easier too. And that goes to show that we have more time to spout nonsense than ever before. Literally. That's all.
Most moronic, idiotic things I've heard in a very long time, actually. And it goes against everything I believe in. Now, I would say you should read the books, you should study, you should get into the topics before you form an opinion. Um, One thing is that it's of course dangerous to just listen in blind faith to someone on the internet, and that's why I always
I
say
put it
that
at
we should
1.5 times speed, yo.
remain students our entire lives. We should read the books. We should absolutely read the books. It should be part of our of your lifestyle.
It all goes back to the Dunning Kruger effect. Like this, like people act like, and it's like people actually do this, man. Like this is, well,
Um, Now, and when you study something, you usually you find out that it's more complex than you thought. You know what is
it's so true. You could use this. You could factor this in with. I don't want to call this simple, but people look down heavily upon YouTubers. You know, I notice like, or maybe like rappers and stuff like that. You know, like literally comparing their jobs to a 9 to 5, and like I'm trying to tell y'all, like, dude, these guys work much harder than you actually think they do. Like these guys, their lives, sure, it's a blessing to get literally millions of dollars on doing the things that you love to do. But bro, when you're spending like 16 to 18 hours every day perfecting your craft, bro, that is not easy at all, dude. That is true pain you have to go through. And you have some bum acting like they know what they're saying. It's truly disgusting, bro. It is. Like, don't downgrade people's work. A lot of people like to do it. They really do. And it's bad. That's why I'm making this video today. Because I find it confusing that people will literally go up to a pro at whatever it is they're doing and tell them they ain't shit. I bro, I've Never in my 18 years of living have I ever thought to do that once. I I can put that on God, and God can kill me. I've never thought of that. Like, damn, what you're doing is crap. I can do it too. Bro, I don't know a time I've done it, and if I have, I've probably only done it like 3 times, maybe, maybe.
We're talking about here is the rise of anti-intellectualism. It's a complicated word, I guess, but um, it's been going on for a long time. I'm going to read another quote for you. This is Isaac Asimov.
Isaac
He said
Asimov.
that
Oh my goodness, man.
that and this quote is a little bit longer.
I don't
He
know him
said,
at all.
"I believe that every human being with a physically normal brain can learn a great deal and be surprisingly intellectual. I believe that what we badly need is social approval of learning and social rewards for learning. We can all be members of the intellectual elite." It was written in Newsweek, 21st of January, 1980. So
1980.
a few years ago. Now, anti-intellectualism.
In your time, that's a few years ago. Wait, who are you actually? I have no idea who you are. Bjorn Andreas Bull Hansen. I gotta check out your YouTube
He is
channel.
the reason why we see this celebration
Definitely.
of stupidity. And anti-intellectualism is a distrust and a contempt for people who, well, has expertise and spend time studying and who might actually be called experts in their field. It is the opposition to intellectuals, higher education, and scientific thinking and scientific method. It is dismissing facts that has been proven to be true through scientific method, often replacing it with dogmatic thinking and religion. Anti-intellectualism
Hmm.
allows people to replace.
So that is exactly why Professor Dave Explains talked about anti-intellectualism in the excerpt of what he was supposed to say on the Piers Morgan show. Yes, he was supposed to be there. I think something happened. He just didn't get an email, and apparently just didn't come. Something because like it wasn't his fault though. Yeah, but you guys clearly see what's going on. This is horribly disgusting, and it's only gonna get much worse with social media and very misleading information, of course, that people don't want to believe. Again, these are proven facts. Proven facts. Hmm. I guess I could say that I did go up to scientists and say what they know is wrong because at a point in time, I did believe the earth was flat. But I was never rude about it. I don't know. I guess, hmm, anti intellectualism. I have to think about this a lot more. I do. I do.
Facts with beliefs. And those two things are not the same. I'm going to quote Asimov again: the attitude that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. So here's an idea that I have. I'm going to start a
Yeah.
garage and I'm going to repair cars. Now, I'm not a mechanic, but I can watch a couple of YouTube videos, form an opinion concerning how to fix brakes and stuff in cars. Should be good enough. Yeah. And actually, if I just spend a couple of hours watching a few videos and so on, I'm better than the experts on this. I'm better than the mechanics, right?
Hmm.
Of course, that it it's silly, of course,
Silly.
and it would be illegal and right.
And exact. Not only it would literally be illegal, but not to only mention the fact that like logically this sounds. I mean, bro, it sounds like retarded, bro. Like logically, it's like, like what the fuck did this dude actually just sit here and say? Oh, yeah, bro, I know more than you. Yeah, like, and you clearly don't. Like, what is going through that person's head? And it's crazy to think because this also can't be handled with a victim mentality. Like, I think that this is purely conscious. Like, for example, I think that this is meant from the deepest evil of someone's heart. To do this, this is meant purely by evil. It's never meant by like, oh, I didn't know what I was doing there. I'm very sorry. I mean, I guess in some cases, because this stuff, it's just stupid to think this way. I mean, it's like sitting here, you have the W, and you just decide to lose on purpose. Like, nah, it's this is too silly. There's no way. As a human race, I feel as if we could be making some mistake. We could. We could.
So, but I'm just telling you this because there are actual experts out there, and I think that we should appreciate what they're doing. Um, when you go to a hospital, let's say you break a leg, do you want someone who went to university and became a medical a surgeon um, to fix your leg, or just someone who spent a couple of hours forming an opinion on how to fix legs to do that?
Medical
And thanks to
surgeon
Matthias
from
Greenman who
university.
gave me that awesome example, by the way. We need to respect that people spend time and many years reading the books. It's important. Now, we can't all go to university. Some people they just don't have the money, or they come from a family tradition where you don't go to university. So I'm not suggesting that you have to go to university to be an intellectual. Not
Facts.
at all. It's an attitude. It's an attitude about being
Higher.
curious. It's this willingness to learn. It's this. Yeah, it's an attitude. I, I I want to say that it's actually keeping the child in us alive, if you know what I mean. We need
It
to remain
is.
curious, and I think your life will be more interesting if you stay curious and if you remain a student. Read the books, read the books, and then read more books. Now, historically speaking, anti
I honestly, I will honestly be so honest with you guys here. I have never, no matter how good I have gotten at something, I have never felt like I've mastered it. It just, I never feel like a master yet. It's like I just always want more. Even growing up, like, I just, I always wanted to be the best. Like, no matter what, like, bro, I want to be the best, bro. Like, I'm gonna push, bro. Like, I'm gonna push till I can't push no more, bro. So it's just like that saying of, and another thing before I get into that saying, I was always trash, garbage. I mean, like everything I've started off in, like I was terrible. Like, well, there was no exceptions. I guess the only thing that I guess came to me passively was like art, maybe. But other than that, nothing. And I just had to pick it up and learn. And I developed those habits. And do I say this in a way that, oh, I'm deprived of my ignorance? Not at all. I remember people would call me names, you know, I'm an outcast, a bum, a loser. But it honestly, it was more so confusing than hurt. I would always tell myself, bro, when my mom gets this bread or when I get this thing, bro, I'm gonna become goated. And I help myself to it. And that's why I'm becoming better and better every day. Now, in this point I'm in a very confusing point in my life right now. But honestly, I'll get out of it. But to top that off with that saying, which I, to be honest, I totally forgot. But I can't even remember. We'll just keep watching the video. I'll come back.
intellectualism tends to lead to,
So,
historically speaking, anti-intellectualism. Read the books, read the books, and then read more books. Now, historically speaking, anti-intellectualism tends to lead to, things like banning books and art in general, burning books even. It tends to replace
what? Really?
proper educational standards with religious dogma. And
Yeah.
recently we have seen things like, the flat Earth movement, or that thing there, the flat Earthers, young Earth, creationist people, and things like that. Now, There will be people writing in the comments that, well, I know nothing, and I should look up, and then a name. Look up and then a name. It's like concerning flat Earth. It's like I never thought we would get to that. And it's actually quite a recent thing in world history. It's
Yeah, yeah, that's another thing I've realized that um people back then did not believe the earth was flat. They didn't. So, I mean, like Aristotle, he only believed that the earth was the center of the universe. He never believed it was flat. They all knew it was a globe. I mean, so how come we don't even know it's a globe now? Well, not I'm not going to say we, but well, no, we. I was once there. But it wasn't attack it wasn't an attack on ignorance. Like it wasn't me saying I know more than them, but it's more like it felt totally different for me. For me it felt like I was smarter. No. Yeah, it felt like no, not smarter, but more special. More so special. Hmm. Because it and I didn't necessarily well I did care about the shape of the earth because I had it as a wallpaper. But I realized that was wrong. And so I just said, you know what? We're just gonna first dive into psychology as a subject to learn. I don't know. Hmm. I don't know.
But I won't get into that whole thing. Well, those who those who feel that they need to write in the comments that the Earth is 6,000 years old and it's flat and all of that, go ahead. I just hope that you can pick up some proper books and read them. It would be awesome if you did. So these are the areas that I can think of where we can see anti-intellectualism, and some of these might surprise you. Now, we see it in universities now actually, where a woke ideology has been allowed to infiltrate many of the well faculties, as far as I understand. We see things like critical race theory. That shouldn't be a thing.
What
It's
is this?
extremely anti-intellectual, if you ask me. We see it in dogmatic religious groups.
Well, let's see. What is critical race theory? I have no idea what this is. This is gonna be a bit of a long video, y'all. Critical race theory. Enter. Critical race theory meaning. Come on, y'all. Bro, guys, do y'all know how to fix this? Why does it? I swear, this thing it will just go to Yahoo for no reason. I'm not on going trying to go to Yahoo, bro. Anyway, okay. Critical race theory is an academic field focused on relationships between conceptions of race and ethnicity, social and political laws, and media. Critical race theory also considers racism to be systemic in various laws and rules, not based on only individuals. Prejudices, the word not based on only individuals biases. The word critical in the name academic reference to critical race theory rather than criticizing or blaming. So we're saying that they're victims of their race? What? What the? Anyways, I don't know. I'm not. Again, there's a reason why my name is Daniel the Hermit. There is a reason why I don't entertain this world anymore. I stopped a long time ago. And I'm done. I remember, and this leads me to what I have to say about during my 10th grade year. During my 10th grade year, I would go up to people. Not even, this is not even just 10th grade, this is also ninth grade too. I would go up to people and try to help them and ask them questions as much as possible to know what's up. Like if you have problems, let's just fix it now. And like people just weren't even trying to fix it. They just didn't care about fixing problems. All they cared about was just well, they only cared about bullshit. So it was just like, what the wait, what? So like it like these people they liked to complain. This also leads me to the next thing with the Amazing World of Gumball. I remember one of the episodes where they became so rich and they said, "Damn, now that we're rich, we have nothing left to complain about." Like what the I laughed out of stupidity like this is so stupid like what are they even talking about? But anyway, that's just insane to me like people like that they love to complain. And like it scares me because as a kid I always hated it. And it's just like I had this belief that because I was so trash at everything, I had this belief that oh shit, well, if they're better than me at this, they can't be complaining. They're doing the right thing, so I'm gonna just keep my mouth shut. Look at what that led me to. There is a reason why my name is Daniel the Hermit. I don't and I don't entertain this world. I don't.
Groups, mega churches in the USA, Islamic organizations, and many others. And I think most importantly, we saw it during COVID. We saw how an anti-scientific, and follow me through here with my line of thought here, please. We saw how governments use a very anti-scientific approach to handle, I'm doing this with my fingers, to handle things. While the real experts
What? Hold up.
I'm doing this with my fingers, to handle things. While the real experts were silenced. During COVID, the anti-intellectual movement grew. During the lockdowns and all of that, it got a lot worse, and people, a lot of people at least, they lost trust in science. Now, why is that? I think it's mainly because those people who were portrayed as experts, they were not the experts. And the attitude from governments was that you shouldn't question science. But that's not how science works. You should always question science. And I realize that
Always.
this is not necessarily a very popular topic. And I don't get many friends for saying this, I guess. But I think it's important. And I think we need to call out this celebration of stupidity and ignorance, because it is getting worse. And it's not only in popular media, what's it called, popular culture, that we see it, reality TV and things like that, Paradise, Love Island, or whatever it's called. We see it in politics, we see it in mainstream media.
That's how you push agendas, man. That is. You push it through bullshit. People just disagree for no. We're gonna react to another video after
A
this.
lot. I
We're
do.
gonna we're gonna fully finish that video about
And
inhuman form.
it's it needs to start with us. I think we need to take back this idea that as human beings we should be curious, we should remain students. And some people, they don't understand what I mean by that. It's very simple. Remaining students means that you remain curious. Pick up a book, go for a walk in an area where you haven't been before, and look at the trees and wonder what's going on here out here in nature. The world is a magnificent place, and we need to take back this childish curiosity, and that's how we get back on track. But what do I know? I'm just your friendly, hairy woodsman out here by the river, and I hope you enjoyed the video. This channel is now 7 years old. I have no plans of quitting, so if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing.
I will. All right, let me check out his channel before I go. Before after this, I will check out that last video and then we'll call it. But let's subscribe to him. Not too sure what he does. I think he just does a whole bunch of. I need to what's coming, how to prepare. We were right, they were wrong. Yeah, so I guess like he's just like a
Either it's your favorite
some type of
author or
hermit.
Buddhist.
Yeah, he's like a I guess like he's like a hermit. I like that. I do. So we're gonna do how America keeps citizens uneducated. This is 7 months ago, and then this is as Mongol. I just figured him out today. I think I've seen him earlier, but as Mongol reacting to Professor Dave explains video. Yeah, we're gonna watch this video about American
Building
anti-intellectualism
your
in a
online
human form.
business
Let's skip this ad and get the fuck out of here, please. All right.
occurs. Hello. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I've
Oh
heard
yeah,
many
I've
voices
watched like a minute of this, like a minute. I was like, let me save this for a reaction, but I didn't watch
conversations
this
about
video.
many different social issues that impact every one of us, some more trivial than others. But one topic has emerged that has caused many disagreements among people who, in the past, may have never disagreed with one another before.
Do you harass your clients when they're at your restaurant to put on masks? Sir? Do you harass them?
All lives matter. My life matters. What do they want me to drop dead wearing a goddamn mask?
Epistemology, the study of knowledge, truth, and its limits, has been a debated subject since ancient times. But in present day, it's almost as if we've never had to have these conversations until now. This is a problem because suddenly, overnight, we've become acutely aware of the uncertainty that we face. And despite this reality, no one seems to be able to agree on anything. In this video, we're going to take a look at the
Exactly.
consequences of anti-intellectualism in American culture and why this type of thinking occurs. Hello everyone, I'm in human form. If you enjoy videos about social psychology and want to help support a smaller YouTube channel, be sure to hit subscribe and like this video. Now let's get started. Anti-intellectualism can be described as the systematic denigration of science-based facts and the pursuit of theory and knowledge. The foundation of this bias was first explored in American historian Richard Hofstadter's seminal book, Anti-Intellectualism in American Life, published in 1963. The
Wow.
1950s witch hunts against intellectuals and artists during the McCarthy era left a strong impression on Hofstadter's thinking. His and others' studies into anti-intellectualism provide insight into how the concept has intertwined itself with American culture. The concept is difficult to define in a concrete manner, because it manifests itself in different ways depending on the circumstances, a handful of which are explored in this video. One of the more common ways this appears in our lives is when someone dismisses intellectual interests as a waste of time, while claiming that conventional wisdom
Uh, Again, I don't know why people do that. Like especially like when it comes to just getting better at something. They will literally be like, "Wow, you're sitting here trying to get better at it." Like, what? Isn't that how to do something? And yes, you do. This GIF is not GIF, or whatever this is. This clip of these guys. Like, what are you watching? And he has to like shut down his computer because it's like, you have to do this. People just don't care to know. In fact, they actually don't want to know. Like, and it leads me to that saying of, people don't want the truth, they want a truth. Again, I don't know why. Well, no, I do. Well, I'll get there.
in this
I'll
video.
get there.
One of the more common ways this appears in our lives is when someone dismisses intellectual interests as a waste of time, while claiming that conventional wisdom is a superior method of thought. It can be seen everywhere, in business, politics, religion, education, and deceptively within the way we think. Despite the fact that it's often associated with America's current ideological right and religious followers, progressives and liberals have also wielded anti-intellectualism to protect their own political power.
And again, that's literally it. These liberals too are also like, man, I know freedom is very good, but when we allow too much freedom, things start to go bad so fast. Okay, a lot of people really just want to control the world again. That's really all they care about and want to do. So, when I see all these liberals push agendas about this, that or this and this, whatever, that and that, whatever it is they're talking about or doing or pushing. It just leads me to know, like, brother, that like all they care about is control. Like all they want to do is form opinions. All we let them do is let them say that your opinion is more powerful than other people's. That we're not doing anything. We're not helping. We're not. But let's get it.
as well. We'll take a deeper look into these modern examples a little later in this video. In 1991, sociologist Daniel Rigney expanded Richard Hofstadter's theory by distinguishing the three ways in which anti-intellectualism appears. I'm going to try and explain these with examples that apply to the 2020s to provide a clearer image of what this looks like. The first type is unreflective instrumentalism, meaning a belief that the pursuit of theory and knowledge is unnecessary unless it can be wielded for practical means. This is kind of like when you ask your friend who's obsessive about hustling and grinding on Uber if he or she has thought about studying economics, and they respond with, "Nah bro, that's bookworm shit. I'm here to make money." Followed by religious
For sure.
anti-rationalism,
For sure.
which is
For sure. Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. So basically, to confirm what he said is that I could sit here and study about drawing, and they could just be like, hell no, hell no, hell no. I actually get to results by just getting on a paper. Well, like getting on a paper and just drawing. I mean, yes, that does get results, but you also need to study about it as well. I totally get that point. I explained that so horrible, but I get it. You could say it's like maybe studying about cells, but cells have nothing practical. Like if you study about a cell and say the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell or whatever, that has no practicality. So you're just gonna be like, hell no, I study about real shit, and it could really be like psychology. I
"I'm here
get
to
it.
make money." Followed by religious anti-rationalism, which is characterized as someone who rejects reason, logic, and facts in favor of reactive decision-making based on gut feelings, morals, or religious absolutes. The modern creationist movement, which denies evidence of evolution, would be an example of this type. And finally, populist anti-elitism, which is the rejection of elite institutions, as well as those categorized within the social or intellectual elite. For instance, someone who belittles college professors or discredits scientists and researchers without any reason to. Hofstadter describes intelligence as utilizing ideas in a practical way, while intellect is about developing, challenging, and evolving the ideas themselves. Because of this, anti-intellectual thought is used as a weapon to keep an iron grip on the ideas and systems that protect groups or individuals with power and privilege. This can appear in the form of misinformation, which gives the illusion that it's providing alternative information that is being kept from the viewer, when in reality, by perpetuating incorrect information, it benefits the people in power. The conservative YouTube channel PragerU falls under this description.
But when I hear somebody somberly intone, "science says," or "follow the science," I get very nervous.
These anti-intellectual tactics are more frequently observed within dominant ideologies in the US, but they can appear in any group, identity, or ideology. And to limit this complicated concept to one demographic would be an oversimplification, as we will see. Hofstadter points out that although its form may change from one circumstance to another, anti-intellectualism is fundamentally American. When European colonists first arrived onto the shores of North America, they brought with them Puritan and Protestant evangelical beliefs, which have been a force in shaping American culture to this day. The Founding Fathers were greatly influenced by these beliefs, and exerted this influence onto their ideals of freedom in what they called the New World. Benjamin Franklin and George Washington embraced the masculine ideal of the rugged, self-made man that could come to America with nothing, and through hard work and some backbone, could become a wealthy industrialist. No education was necessary for this ideal man, for he was self-made by contrast to educated intellectuals, which were considered as effeminate and powerless. Intellectuals were considered to lack faith, vigor, and moral virtue.
So, so people who work hard are also bitches. Is that what we're saying here? Man, how did anyone with like did we have common sense? Like, like the more and more I start to really think, like back then, like, bro, we were not any better either. I don't think this like anti-intellectualism is not rising. We're just becoming aware of it. Like this shit was always here. Like these guys, they're like pretty dumb. No power? Someone who studies has no power? Feminine? Because they're not in the field?
Contrast to educated intellectuals, which were considered as effeminate and powerless. Intellectuals were considered to lack faith, vigor, and moral virtue, all of which to the anti intellectual was considered an essential part of religion and business ownership. Even Thomas Jefferson was mocked for his intellect by Federalist leaders, claiming that he was unfit for presidential and military duties upon election. The English Puritans that colonized New England had a deep scholarly tradition, a tradition that led to the founding of Ivy League schools like Harvard and Yale, who are still considered prestigious universities to this day.
Yes.
But the establishment of universities intensified suspicions and distrust in intellect, as working class individuals and intellectuals were driven further apart. The sentiment among some was that scholars hid behind books and ivory towers and didn't produce anything useful for society. At a certain point in the 1800s, there was a dramatic shift towards religious enthusiasm, which divided certain religious groups. Religious faith became more individualistic and no longer bound to institutional authority, and with this, the Puritan ideal of the minister as an intellectual and educational leader was steadily weakened. Anti-education and anti-elite rhetoric was emerging in many institutionalized evangelical settings across the country. Dwight Moody, an American evangelist,
It's starting to make sense. I mean, think about it like this. I mean, it's just, I think all of this starts with the fact that when do we ever apply a math problem? When have I ever sat here and said, oh yeah, this algebra problem is definitely going to help me make money? It doesn't. So most people are just heading to school because they need to. It's actually insane. This is, man, this is starting to get
an
crazy.
intellectual and educational leader, was steadily weakened. Anti-education and anti-elite rhetoric was emerging in many institutionalized evangelical settings across the country. Dwight Moody, an American evangelist during this time, was famously quoted saying, "I do not read any book unless it will help me understand the Bible." This was the first major success of anti-intellectualism in the United States, and would proliferate religious anti-rationalism in various religious groups over the course of the next 200 years. Mobility of the population, education, and the development of radical ideas
Sigmund
made it
Freud.
increasingly difficult for religious fundamentalists to remain separate from secular academic thought in the 20th century. Provided that secular intellectualism remained associated with elites, fundamentalists could either lose or take advantage of it by making it the target.
And this is also another point in the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, with the fact that like the poor people were actually the enemy. Like, wow. And like the rich people, man, they knew what they were doing. We know what we're doing. And so to a poor person, it's just like, well, bro, you're just, what are you even doing? I don't even know what you're doing, man. Like, it's just like, oh, you're rich, so you're gonna benefit from all of this. And so I think it was something about taxes, I believe. Tax the rich more. The rich should definitely be taxed more, and the poor people should be taxed less. And that actually played into the rich people's favor even more, even more. And I just found that one to be insane. I found that one to be insane. But let's keep on going.
Of a militant sermon. But the gap separating religiosity and academic belief was closing, and many individuals were seeing religion as less desirable. The efficiency movement in the early 1900s sparked changes in the government and the economy to cut down on inefficiency and waste. This would be done by appointing experts who could identify problems and wasteful standards in various domains and solve them. Although the practice was necessary and beneficial to all, it reinforced differences between expert intellectual types and the common laborer. By the 1960s, this divide between intellectual thinking and conventional wisdom had evolved into a culture war that would appear in many forms, with anti-intellectuals opposing new developments in society. The civil rights movement, women's liberation, and anti-war sentiment were all rejected and trivialized by anti-intellectual types, who criticized the ideas as being antithetical to American patriotism, a narrow-minded and intolerant belief that remains widely held today, as you will see in our next section.
Let's see it. Donald Trump.
Oh, nothing works on this acne.
An anti-intellectual mindset can occur as a symptom of otherwise ineffective strategies people use to process information. When a person is presented complex information at a high volume, their thinking will fall back on rules of thumb called heuristics to make decisions. For example, people tend to pay close attention to information that is familiar to them and unopposed to what they already know. Psychologists
Facts.
call this phenomenon
The confirmation bias.
It is shockingly difficult to overcome. Social pressure and the desire to get along with members of a group can
And so,
also impact their decision making.
even the confirmation bias, this one is actually super important. So even I see this in not necessarily my own life, but like it would be something as simple as like I'd watch a specific video game, and there are three YouTubers I have to pick from. I would always pick 9 times out of 10 this one YouTuber just because I'm most. No, that dude is better than both of the other guys I'm talking about, but I would just rather pick him because I was most familiar with him. Or it could be just it's just like people are tend to be closer to what they're more familiar to. Don't really know why.
It is
No,
shockingly
I mean, well,
difficult to
I know, but
overcome.
it's like
Social
to the
pressure
level
and
of
the
where
desire to
you're
get
saying
along
it's the
with
best.
members of a group can also impact their decision making. Social pressure in combination with fear is an especially potent factor in distorting a person's ability to process information and make the right decisions. When someone who understands these biases takes advantage of them, we can see how anti-intellectual thought can spread at an incredible rate. In this section, we will look at how power takes advantage of anti-intellectual belief.
If we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand and think it's all about vegetation management, we're not going to succeed together protecting Californians.
Okay, it'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with me.
What?
Hey, well, I don't think science knows actually.
America has had
What? Brother, what? Yeah, Donald Trump just flat out disagreed with, I mean, gobs of evidence.
a long relationship with anti-intellectualism, ingrained deep within its core beliefs and principles. These old systems of belief are what has shaped the societal structures we live in today. The politicians, massive corporations, and religious institutions that dominate so many aspects of our lives benefit from this the most. Anti-intellectualism is the weapon of choice when they seek to tighten their grip around the neck of society. Politicians have realized that anti-intellectualism is very successful in charming certain demographics into voting for a candidate or policy.
Hell
This
yes.
manipulative psychological tactic was popularized by Dwight Eisenhower during his presidential campaign when he described intellectuals as, quote, men who take more words than necessary to tell more than they know. He was quick to criticize intellectuals as failed businessmen, despite the fact that he himself
Is
had
a
previously
failed.
served as president of Columbia University, and his father was a college-educated engineer. This was all a careful performance to persuade the common person by reinforcing the perceived threat of a supposed intellectual class, creating a division in the minds of the population, no different than the propaganda tactics used by totalitarian governments in Soviet Russia and Germany in the 20th century. Certainly, this was not the first time a politician voiced anti-intellectual sentiments, but from then on is how American right-wing politicians would communicate with their conservative followers. Every Republican candidate's campaign from Nixon to Trump would follow the narrative of the strong leader who is characterized by conventional wisdom that need not rely on experts or stuffy academics. George W. Bush
Just kind of, basically, you're just very good at talking. You are. And on top of that, you're very good at appealing to my bias. So I like you. I'll let you stay. Simple as that. Yeah, this world is fucked.
often posed as a rugged cowboy for photo ops to come across as some sort of hyper-real political John Wayne figure, ready to lasso up some oil from the Middle East. He didn't need no scientists telling him what to do. But more recently, the consequences of politically driven anti-intellectual thought can be seen with the Trump administration's response to the coronavirus pandemic. The administration repeatedly undermined government scientists' suggestions in dealing with the pandemic, leading to a new wave of anti-elitism in America. Democratic presidents are also guilty of using anti-intellectualism as a political tool for their benefit. President Lyndon B. Johnson also engaged in anti-intellectual posturing of this sort. He would make mention of his working-class upbringing in rural central Texas, and in the same breath, claim that intellectuals are, quote, more interested in the superficial than they are with the things that have really built America. Rural intellectual posturing of this sort. He would make mention of his working-class upbringing in rural central Texas, and in the same breath, claim that intellectuals are, quote, more interested in the superficial than they are with the things that have really built America. This manner in which politicians speak seems completely normal to us. Repeatedly using patronizing language such as folks or regular people, referring to rural populations, has a real effect on that demographic's self-image and perceived sense of control over their own communities. They then believe that their only hope is to be subservient to the politicians that supposedly represent them. This occurrence, which started as a valid criticism of wealthy elites, has become a powerful political tool used to politicize fundamentally nonpartisan issues. But many of you may consider our next example as far more nefarious than the divisive behavior of politicians. When it comes to using anti-intellectualism to unethically protect their own interests and profit, there is no better example than the corporate sector of America. The American mode of capitalism has always been predicated on exploitation. Corporations continue to exploit a population of consumers that have fallen victim to being poorly informed and distracted. The most destructive example of this is the ongoing denial and reluctance of corporations, and government officials backed by those corporations, to make any significant changes in economic policy in order to mitigate the effects of climate change, despite the reality that those changes would benefit the economy. This is accomplished by the use of anti-rationalist narratives that minimize the seriousness of climate change, or by rejecting its existence in entirety, ignoring the overwhelming amount of scientific evidence supporting the matter. Sponsored by the largest privately owned coal company in America, the Murray Energy Corporation, the Rocky Mountain Coal Mining Institute have peddled disinformation claiming coal is more affordable than clean energy, a statement that has been proven to be untrue by multiple independent studies. Social psychologists have theorized this inclination to seek out profit over public safety as an example of what is called a social dilemma, which can be defined as a situation that has a reward structure that favors individuals.
Concerns about others' outcomes, concern about own outcomes. Low, high, problem solving. Low, high, contending, inactivity.
Individuals who multiple independent studies. Social psychologists have theorized this inclination to seek out profit over public safety as an example of what is called a social dilemma, which can be defined as a situation that has a reward structure that favors individuals who act selfishly rather than in ways that benefit the larger social collective. These corporate tactics of anti-intellectualism are not new to American culture and were employed for decades by the tobacco industry. Corporations will discredit science, scientists, and logic in order to generate wealth for investors and corporate executives at the expense of the population and the biophysical environment's health. We can see that this is how structures of power use anti-intellectualism to their benefit. But how do you counter anti-intellectualism in your own life? I'm sure at one point or another, you've been in conversation with a friend or a family member about some issue that you just disagreed on completely. And you knew deep in your heart that you understood the truth because you watched a ContraPoints or Vsauce video on the topic 2 months ago. But they
For sure.
still wouldn't agree or get it. What do you do in this situation? Well, first things first, don't take advice from anyone on YouTube. Seriously, be extremely critical of anything on here. Second thing would be to identify logical fallacies that regularly appear in anti-intellectual arguments. Fallacies that appear in the faulty reasoning of anti-intellectualism are used to distract or delegitimize arguments on irrelevant grounds. Here are a few examples. Whataboutism is defined as the technique or practice of responding to an accusation or difficult question by making a counter-accusation or raising a different issue. This
Yes.
tactic is regularly
Yeah, this tactic is used oh my gosh, Tucker Carlson. This example is used many times with my dad. Or just maybe it's mainly just it mainly happens when someone is wrong in an argument. Comment is when someone is just completely wrong in an argument and they just because they're wrong they can't accept it so they just talk again about something that has nothing to do with it and then just end off, oh yeah, I'm right. These things are weird, but I can figure this out.
used to defend the status quo and avoid change. For example, not changing environmental policy because other countries are polluting the environment as well. This can be avoided by acknowledging that both circumstances are a problem and then try to return to the original topic of conversation. Another way in which anti-intellectualism comes through is willful ignorance. Willful ignorance is when a person will avoid acknowledgement of contrary evidence that would undermine or invalidate their perspective, usually based on values, intuition, emotions, or anecdotal evidence. This is a much more difficult circumstance. Sometimes all that can be done is to try your best to understand the emotion behind the reasoning, as well as practicing compassion towards the person and their perspective. Since people don't have universal experiences or share the same background, coming to an agreement might be difficult. And finally, the best way to combat anti-intellectualism is to recognize it within yourself. Understand and acknowledge the limitations of your own intelligence, and be willing to have challenging conversations. Anti-intellectualism has become more prominent due to the many social issues that have popularized in recent years. The systemic denigration of science-based facts and the pursuit of theory and knowledge is nothing new to American culture and has been destructive to communities in the past. Politicians and powerful corporations have used anti-intellectualism as a psychological tool to gain control over various demographics. But it's best to keep an open mind when encountering anti-intellectualism in your life. My name is Inhuman Form,
Thank
and
you.
thanks for watching this video all the way to this point. Since you enjoy interesting topics like this, be sure to click one of these videos that pop up on your screen and hit subscribe. I'll see you again in the next video.
That was actually a really good video, guys. Yeah, we did a lot of reacting today. This is a an hour long video. So, yeah, that'll do for this.